Hey, how are you doing? I am coming to you live outside because it is so incredibly beautiful today. How are you? I realize that this is a little bit later than I'm usually doing my Wednesday rant. A cup of herbal tea, although today I'm not drinking tea. It's so beautifully warm. Hey Shireen, good to see you. Hey Sarah Kate, it's my UK contingent holding it down. It is a beautiful, kind of hazy Wednesday, and I don't know if you can hear the cicadas. Can you hear them? They're like seriously rubbing their legs and wings and chirping like crazy. Rather than being in the house where I've been locked up for the last 2 days. Hey Priya, another UK person in the house. I'm not going to try to rub this in because I know you people in the UK right now are really dealing with some heat. Hi Faida, where are you from, Faida? Where are you watching from? I know it's been really hot in the UK, and surprisingly our summer here in France is quite mild. We had a couple of really hot days, but now there's a gentle, slight little gentle breeze, not a lot of humidity, and I'm feeling good. Hey Lisa, how are you? I am really, I'm struggling, I'll be honest. I've talked to a few people, some of you are watching, and you know I've been struggling to put words to some of the revelations that came as a result of my trip to Peru last week. It was, I mean, there were so many shifts on so many levels. It was so profound. And yeah, I just got off of another couple of phone calls today and Skype calls with clients and with friends saying, okay, tell me about Peru. And it's so much. But I wanted to share one concept. So Lisa, you're planning a course for women. Tell me more. And yes, Sarah Kate, you can see a nice breeze. It's not super hot. It's kind of a hazy day, but blue sky. And it just feels like the time to connect with you all. Hey, Adam, it's good to see you, cuz. I don't know if I've ever seen you on one of my Facebook Lives. I'm sending you lots of love and happy vibes to you. So Lisa, tell me more about this course that you're planning. I just got off the phone with a lovely soul in America, in the Maryland area, who's going to be joining us here in the south of France for the Roots of Purpose retreat. And I've said this to you guys before, that there were people out there calling for support. And you know that I'm always here trying to send love and support around the world. And a couple of people said, look, I'm really struggling. And a couple of them were in America saying, hey, if you're not going to come back to America and do some retreats, then I'm going to come to you. So I put it out there that I would invite people here to the south of France. There are so many healing places on the planet, but this has been a place that has been so instrumental in my personal healing and recovering from, you know, the depression and anxiety that I felt. Yes. So I just figured, okay, since I'm not going to do a workshop in the US right at the moment, why don't I invite you guys here? And all of what we're focused on is helping people get unplugged from the matrix. And so I want to talk about that. So Lisa says, how to move on when shit happens when you're hitting midlife. Yes. That is beautiful. Very much in alignment with what we're doing. And Faida says, you're in the UK as well, having another session of verbal tea? Yes, yes. So here's the thing, and hello, Julia. Here's the thing I want you to just consider. Now, I'm curious to know from you, do you feel like this earth reality is the ultimate reality? Or maybe, just maybe, this movie, The Matrix, might have been hinting at another possibility of reality. Hey, Camilla, so I've got my DK contingent in the house. All right, love it. Got the Scandinavia, got UK, got the USA. Awesome sauce. So what? Tell me, do you guys believe that this reality, this world we call reality, is this the definitive reality? Or are we living in the Matrix? Some would also say, you know, I don't know if you saw this book by, what is his name? Michael something, The Holographic Universe. You know, the quantum physics people and even more modern day, just everyday people are recognizing that we live in a hologram. The Buddhists call this reality a projection of the mind. So if it's a projection, then it's not necessarily the ultimate reality. So even the reality that I call reality could have a completely different vibe or essence to you. Now I know that sounds like a complete mind warp. So Priya, you say, and there's the divine matrix. Yes, let us make a distinction. So dear Priya, type away. There is something that one might consider a divine matrix. Because if we're talking about this world as the matrix, I'm sorry, I wouldn't say it's divine, right? Like we see that there's a very small percentage of people controlling literally everything on the planet. Our resources, from natural resources like, you know, the coal and oil stuff, from our financial systems, even the education systems, the healthcare or sick care system. So when you really start to, and I'm not even one of those weirdo conspiracy kind of people. It's like some of this is such common knowledge. We realize there is a control drama going on planet Earth. And while I was in Peru, I happened to meet some amazing and wonderful souls who you will start seeing some special programs. I've just like tapped into these people's brains and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to share this with my tribe. One of them is Dr. Antoine Chevalier and his lovely wife Adrienne and their son Luke. They were on this trip with us to Peru and they live in the DC area. He works at the White House. And we started really talking about this idea that we are in this holographic universe. And what's controlling life here on our Earth, time, space reality is really more or less tied into the mind and all of these programs. But what if you could step outside of this matrix and step into the source code or spirit, divine essence? And what if you created your life from that space instead of from this space? So if this is interesting to you, if you know anyone else who's excited about sci-fi or quantum theories, share this video with them because I'd love to have this conversation today. So let's see what you've had to say. Lisa says, the film, What the Bleep Do We Know, was life-changing for you, Lisa. Highly recommend it. It truly changed your life from wanting to end it to becoming curious and grateful to the universe. Oh, wonderful. I'm so glad you're still here on this planet. And that's part of the awakening, right? Like once you awaken and you realize what's going on around here is not the be-all, end-all definitive reality, that there is this ability to step out of it and change your life. And then, as you say, Lisa, to all of a sudden to feel such gratitude for the universe, it means you've obviously taken back control. That's what I'm talking about, unplugging from the matrix. You know, if you've seen the movie and Morpheus offers the red and the blue pill, it's like, do you want to know? Do you want to know that you're ultimately the creator of your life? Are you ready to step out of victim mentality, where life is happening to you and at you as a result of being on this spinning little planet? Or are you willing to recognize your divinity, your divine nature, the true self, the authentic self, the spirit, whatever you want to call it, essence, that part of you that is one with the divine, that part of you that doesn't have to live by or is not fully governed by this earth. I know, I'm freaking y'all out, right? Thank you for sharing the video, Sarah Kate. You like the idea of the Matrix being like a shared delusion. And that's literally what the Hindus would call it. It is Maya, or illusion. And it is a delusion. We project it, but project based on shared beliefs. It's scary to think how much power we would have if enough people woke up. Yeah, it could be scary, but it could also be empowering to think if enough people wake up, unplug from this delusion, wake up from the illusion or the dream, and recognize your divinity, your ability to create a life you truly love based on what your higher self or God or spirit really wants to achieve in this lifetime, then you could transcend even the karma and the drama that your soul has accumulated over multiple lifetimes. All right, I'm gonna leave it at that for a hot second. So one of the things that, hello Janet, I'm glad you're joining. Sorry I don't have some time to talk to you, but tomorrow I go to the UK. Camilla says she just wrote a blog about taking control of my life and not letting life take control of me. Yes. Yes, you have the power. Each of us has the power. Now I know that if you really believed in all these conspiracies, then you might believe that there are people who don't want you to wake up. You know, there are people that don't want you to wake up and realize that companies like Monsanto and these others who are manipulating the food, they're doing it to keep themselves empowered and full of money. They don't care about you. I'm sorry. People in certain businesses don't care about you. They are not trying. Okay, you now know how I feel about bugs. I feel like there's bugs on me. They're not really, they don't have your best interest at heart. They're not out there trying to build their company so that you're healthy and happy and awake. Now, yes, there are more of us who are breaking out, the disruptors, the positive disruptors. Hey, Jasmine. Yes, Jasmine, good to have you here. We have more positive disruptors who are saying, I will dedicate my time and my life and my business using my talents for the good of all, even if it means your profits are going to be less than they could be. Because when you wake up and you realize that we are one, we are connected, this earth family, all of the divisions you see on the planet are arbitrary. They're not real. It's, yes, the planet, had these eruptions and parts of the land broke off. And if your ancestors lived in the north, they were pale and blonde haired. And if they were in the continents lower down, they were darker skinned. But we come from one family. And these divisions and these lines, they don't even exist on the earth. These little maps that have been drawn to divide us, to keep us separate so that someone in power could rule over, all of that stuff is man-made. It's made up. And if you believe in that delusion, then you're subject to the rules of that game. Now I know I'm not the one to try to lead a revolution. Oh, or am I? I think so. I think so. I had a great conversation with the lovely Helen Rebello. She is the peaceful warrior, and she's leading a peaceful rebellion. And I say yes, we are all being called to step up our game as leaders. Leader for yourself and your family, to really know who you are, what you stand for, and what you will tolerate or not tolerate. Like, you're being called to leadership. We can no longer look for solutions outside of ourselves, to government, to healthcare, to politicians, to any of it. We have got to go within. And I'm not saying go within into the monkey mind that has unfortunately been programmed and has carried this ancestral lineage down. Like, there's, to Sarah Kate's point about this shared delusion, that's what culture can be. It's passed down from generation to generation to generation, such that we don't even often question where some of our beliefs or our practices even came from. We haven't even investigated to see, is this good and right for me now? Like some of our cultural norms, our cultural practices, which have maybe gone back 1,000 or several thousand years, they started based on that time period and what was possible for us as humans. But now, today, have you ever questioned if this stuff is good for you? I just wonder. Yes, Sarah Kate says, revolution! So I don't know. I'm kind of fired up. I definitely felt a shift in my energy with being in Peru and reconnecting, hearing about the Incas and talking with the shamans that we saw, who are still so connected to the roots of these indigenous people and the roots of Mother Earth. And one of the things that Antoine Chevalier introduced me to, and hello, Helena. This is the last part that I didn't get to share with you, Helena, when we were talking a little while ago. The last little tidbit that really, knocked my socks off was hearing from Dr. Chevalier, his work with a gentleman named Steve Richards. And one of the things that Steve is really passionate about is helping people understand how the Aborigines of Australia use what they call dreamtime healing to go beyond the cultural programming, the soul programming and karma, and even quite possibly the infestations from possibly other dimensional beings, or even just the things, the decisions you made early in life before you had language and reason, or in another lifetime. Those things can be eradicated. So what I heard, and then watching some of these videos, I heard of people being cured, and yeah, I used the C word, cured, of health conditions and emotional challenges that you would think it's just not possible in an hour to see something like autism disappear or cancer disappear. Now I know there are people who might not want us to hear that, and they may not want us to know what we are really capable of if we came from the side of spirit and source and got out of this ego and this control matrix. But it really blew my mind, so much so that I am going to fly to America and meet up with Steve Richards, who's, he lives in Australia and he's doing a training in America. So I'm going. I'm like, you know what? This needs to be televised. The revolution. It will be televised. So I won't be shooting so much so at this event because it's his training event, but I'm definitely going to meet and I'm going to learn this new modality called holographic kinetics. And I think now is the time for more and more people to break free from the programming. And I've shared with my audiences, and I will continue to share with my audiences, a whole range of healing modalities and ways that we can transcend the foibles of our mind and our programming. Because I think each of us, on this journey of life, we're at different stages in life. So age and stage, like when I was 20, I didn't have the same concerns as when I was 30 and when I'm now in my 40s. So there's the stages that we go through and the ages we go through in life. But there's also the stages of our development and our level of awareness. Now, maybe the idea of a miraculous healing is too far for you. Maybe that leap is like, I'm not really ready to go to some quantum healing practice. But maybe there are other technologies like, the emotional freedom technique or the tapping you've probably heard of. Things like thought field therapy, TFT, which was the original meridian tapping protocol. So we published a book for Bitte Visa out of Norway called The Book on Quantum Leaps for Leaders. And she tells her own personal story and how thought field therapy or TFT, meridian tapping, along with tipping point methodology and other things, can be used to help us make these quantum leaps in our personal development and well-being as leaders. We're publishing next month a book called The Smiler. Smiler Can Change It All, which I'm not wearing it today because I'm wearing gold. That's a hint, Gega. I want my smiler in rose gold. But most of you have seen me wearing the smiler. And we're publishing her book because the message is one that people who are dealing with depression, they need to hear. So there are a whole number of methodologies and practices and techniques and understandings that I believe the world needs to know about. Because Are you still there? I got a phone call. Haven't had that happen while I'm doing a Facebook Live. But mainstream healthcare cannot account for many of the disease processes that we're seeing. And mainstream healthcare is not the solution for everything. Now, I'm not saying it's time to reject it, wholeheartedly. There are things where allopathic medicine is good. But there are there are probably far more aspects of allopathic medicine that could be mediocre or even harmful. Obviously, if you have a broken bone, a good surgeon might be just what you need. If you chop off your finger while you're mowing something, you might need a good surgeon. But there are other ways that we can heal, and especially when it comes to the emotional or mental health side of things. I struggled with depression for decades, and the traditional system didn't work. But not even just the system and the antidepressants, but the diagnosis wasn't right. And we're programmed to think, oh, my low moods, my feeling unfulfilled in life, and all of that, we label it as depression. And I walked around feeling like I was defective, which is why I didn't tell people. I hid the depression. And like so many other functional depressives, I was able to suck it up and make it through, and went to medical school and did what I had to do to become a doctor and built up the business. But I was miserable. And how is it that someone could go from decades of depression to having a spiritual experience and moving out of that paradigm, that I became free, emotionally free, with no relapse, and no antidepressants? Now, I'm not saying that they're not helpful, because certainly if you're in the midst of a serious emotional crisis, yeah, there are some antidepressants that will help you boost the neurochemistry to make you feel better and feel good enough to make some changes in life and get through a rough patch. But in terms of chronic depression, I've seen very few people whose lives have been made dramatically better. And that's why I just want to present you with other options. My bias as a scientist, I still appreciate science. I'm a nerd, I'm a geek, you know that, if you've hung around at all. So I'm still going to show you things based on the evidence. Evidence-based research is what I want to present to the world through the documentaries and the books that that we at Make Your Mark Global are bringing to the world, because there's so much more available to us if we are willing to unplug and at least put those beliefs and those biases on pause. Just suspend them. I'm not saying you have to get rid of them. I want you to check out for yourself and go within. Ask your spirit. Just ask. Spirit, is this in alignment for me? Is this truth? Make sure you know your true spirit as opposed to, other stuff. But check it out and go within to find out what's right for you, and be bold enough and brave enough to take the step forward. Because you might find that with each step forward you take, even if they're baby steps, you get free. So, what have y'all said? Janet says, it's so true, you're experiencing it now, a new dimension in awareness, personal emotions and awareness. Yes. And yes, Janet, you're so right, exactly. The diagnosis is not always correct. You said that I believe you can have a spiritual encounter to shift one out of the negative mood to the positive. Well, it's been shown, right? We've seen people who've had near-death experiences, or people who've had survived accidents and crashes. And unfortunately, we humans often have to hit rock bottom, you know? Hey, Sinitra. Hey, Samantha. Sinitra, I was just talking about you in a good way. We have seen that humans will change. Things can change in an instant, even on a molecular and cellular level, based on them having some miraculous event. And sometimes they are hard events that cause pain, but they don't all have to be. We don't all have to hit a brick wall or hit rock bottom in order to change. So I wonder how many of you have you heard the story of Anita Moorjani? Did you read her book, Dying to Be Me? Anyone? Type in, let me know. Hey, Sonia. How are you? You like this color on me, Sinitra? Thank you. So I'm glad, Sinitra, that you are coming here to the south of France, to the Roots of Purpose retreat. It's going to be awesome. Hello, Candace. And Janet is also coming, so that's 2 of our American contingent, and I think there's 2 other Americans that I know of that are coming. People from the UK, people from Denmark, coming down for this event. Yes, good morning, Candace. Candace, where are you watching from? Shireen says, over the last couple of weeks, you've realized that you've been spending so many hours doing mundane activities that are not serving my humanistic empowerment leadership. Yeah. Don't we? We've all been there. So, compassion to self. We've all been there. But it's good that you are aware of it, Shireen, because then you can stop and say, what am I doing in every moment? Really having deliberate control, in the best sense, of your diary and your daily planner of what am I doing? Is this moving me forward on my mission, or is it busy work? So, yes. Oh, okay, Samantha. Watch the replay. Seattle, Washington. Okay, Candace. Nice. All right, so you've heard about the book, Sinitra and Lisa. So Anita Moorjani is this woman who ended up in, well, okay, so Anita Moorjani had cancer, and the cancer was basically shutting down a lot of her organs, so much so that she was at a point where she had slipped into a coma, and the doctors were calling her family members saying, okay, we think she's on her way out. You need to get here as fast as possible because she won't be here much longer. And as she slipped into this coma, she had an out-of-body experience, a near-death experience. She remembers hovering over her body and hearing what the doctors were talking about. But at the same time, she also saw, I think it was her brother, who was traveling from Hong Kong, I believe. Anyway, it was across the oceans. And she saw that he was getting on a plane to come and see her. I mean, it's been a while since I've read the book and seen her videos, but you can find her TED Talks online. And the long and short of it is, she had this out-of-body experience, and she understood and met some spiritual guides who explained what was going on. Like, she got an understanding and understood how the cancer came about, and also understood when she was given the choice of, I don't really want to go back into that body. It's like, being on the other side, being quote-unquote dead, means the pain is gone. But what happened was miraculous when she did decide that coming back into that body meant she was no longer going to be living under those false pretenses that we all do, right? We all try to fit ourselves into the mold, do what we're told to do or what we think we're supposed to do, instead of being true to ourselves. And miraculously, once she did return to her body and did wake up from this coma, the tumors in her body melted away within record time, so much so that the doctors just couldn't believe it. So she's been traveling around the world sharing her message that we are meant to be who we're meant to be. We don't have to live, under these false pretenses and these these programs that get installed into us as children. So anyway, the book is called Dying to Be Me. You'll see her TED Talk. I know I'm messing up some of the details, but really, really powerful. And what it tells us is when we step out of this matrix, this part of life with the ego and the soul, with all of its accumulated karma and drama and trauma, if we step into the land of spirit, the source of all life, via our true self, higher self, God connection, whatever you want to call it, if you're coming from there, there is nothing that you cannot manifest in this physical world. Because from the spirit essence or source code, you can overwrite it. It's kind of like Neo. A human shouldn't be able to dodge these bullets like Neo was. But when you go into a different aspect of dimension of reality, it's just code. And it's this delusional matrix anyway. So I know this is a little heady for a Wednesday cup of verbal tea, but that's what's been on my mind. It's helping people recognize that you are more powerful than you really know. And if you are willing to step out of the control dramas and the programming that may have had you locked in, feeling like a slave to the machine, then you might just see that the miracles that all spiritual traditions have talked about, they're possible for you and me and everyone. Every spiritual tradition has described things that we would consider supernatural, miraculous, and whatnot. And this sense of alchemy, this sense of manifesting, it's our divine right. It's just what we are capable of. And that's what I'm really excited to help people tap into. It's the magic of life that helps us transcend all of the petty stuff we go through, all of the symptoms and these illnesses that take up so much energy and time and focus and money. Managing things like obesity and diabetes, heart disease, and even to some extent cancer and Alzheimer's. These are diseases that are preventable. Now, there's these weird certain cases that no one can really explain why certain cancers, like pancreatic cancer, for example, comes on so quickly and takes people out in some instances so quickly. But then we see people with other diseases that through positivity, awe, humor, faith, they're able to transcend them. That should be giving us clues. And we think of them as the exception when they should be considered the norm. Just saying. So Janet says, in other words, we don't have to be sick because the diagnosis said we're sick. Break free from the delusional matrix. Powerful. Yes, Janet. The how part. Sarah says, my big question is the how part. Give me the pill. Show me the door. Is it a matter of intention or something else? Well, you know what? This is a really great question, Sarah Kate, because there are different approaches. So previously, one would say, following a particular spiritual path, for example. Let's take the Buddhist path. One would say by quieting the mind, stilling the mind, through the process of meditation, you come to recognize your true self. And in that awareness, you come to understand everything. You come to understand that everything here is a projection of the mind, and it's illusion. It's not the ultimate reality. We think of this duality as being truth, that I am separate from you, that these things out there, when they're not. It's all in the mind. It's all a projection of the mind. So one path to your awakening and recognizing that you can unplug is through meditation. Now, there are people who would argue, well, that takes too long, and I don't feel like sitting on a cushion. And what's interesting, the thing I want to ask Steve Richards, who works with these Aboriginal programs, it's something called the Law of Lore, L-O-R-E. And if you look at it, go to his website, Holographic Kinetics, and read up on the Law of Lore. apparently, the Aboriginal culture, which has existed for, 60,000 years, they believe that every one of us has the responsibility to take control of our thoughts and deeds and actions. And when we recognize who we really are, that's really the first step. So if there were a pill to help you recognize who you really are, that would probably be the pill you'd want, right? Because if you woke up and you knew that you were God, or one with God, or divinely created by God, or what did you say, Janet? What is it? Fearfully made? If you knew that the source, the creator, that you are one with that, if you woke up and knew that, and you ultimately knew that all these control dramas out there were just a fictitious program that you are not subject to, not in any hard, definitive, ultimate reality, that would be freedom, right? That would be the enlightenment. And, again, going back to the Buddhist path, Buddha says we all have Buddha nature. It is our nature to be the awakened one. That's what the Buddha means. It means the awakened one, the enlightened one, the one who has recognized what reality is. Wonderfully and fearfully made, fearfully intentional, made with heartfelt interest. Yes, oh, I love this. Yes. Wonderfully, fearfully, intentionally made with heartfelt interest. So I don't know what scripture you're referring back to, Janet, when we were talking about this. But if you even look at the Christian faith, Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. Like, you don't have to wait till you're dead and gone to experience heaven. The kingdom of heaven is within. And knowing that you are divine, fearfully, intentionally, wonderfully made with heartfelt interest should give you a clue to the real nature of you. You. But unfortunately, once you add in the human ego, starting to mess with scripture, starting to mess with whatever religious background you're coming from. You're welcome, Sarah Kate. Unfortunately, when humans got involved with religion, they recognized that they could control cultures, they could control communities. So sadly, religion and some of these, when we look back at these divine texts from multiple faiths, there was so much magic and miraculous stuff described about who we really are as a spirit, as a perfect, whole, divine, spiritual being. But if you could think that you had a direct connection with God, oh, the kingdom of heaven is within, I don't need to go pray to a priest or do Hail Marys or anything else, well, that put the church, at risk. So they wanted to keep themselves in between you and God. So unfortunately, religion has warped our sense of self, our sense of who we are on a divine level. And it works. It's pretty darn effective to do mind control on people and make people think that they're crazy and that they're wrong and that, the establishment is right. I did not mean to have this kind of a conversation today. Anyway, so Janet says you have to be open to learn about your authentic self for this unveiling of embracing who you are as a whole person. And Psalm 139, verses 13 through 16. Y'all, look it up, says Janet. All right, Dr. Anthony. So, I don't know how many of you all are feeling like you're ready. You're ready to step out of the matrix. So Sarah Kate, I wish there were a pill. I'll definitely say that one of the things that came out on this trip, and who was it that asked about? Was it Sonia? No, who was it that asked me about ayahuasca? And I'm dodging the conversation. I'm gonna keep scrolling. Was it Sonia? Was it Jasmine? It was you, Jasmine. Jasmine asked if I did ayahuasca. So there were people in this event who, I met people in Peru who were very anti ayahuasca, and others who were very pro-ayahuasca. And, you know, some of the things that you've probably, if anyone's ever looked at ayahuasca, you've heard before, oh, there are people who will have a really bad trip and they meet demons and they meet spiritual entities that are really scary, and there have been people who didn't recover. They tried ayahuasca and were just a mess afterward. Well, there were people that were saying that, you know, any substance that you take in, whether that's medicinal plants, marijuana, ayahuasca, peyote, or even just people who do ecstasy or alcohol or any drug or substance that you take into you that's going to alter your brain and your state of consciousness is going to perhaps lower your defenses. And if your defenses are down and your perception is altered, you might take on spiritual entities who are just waiting to get a hold of a human soul and a human vehicle. So it was interesting to meet some shamans on this trip, and other people who were doing the ayahuasca ceremony, which I took part in, who had just amazing spiritually uplifting conversations following this experience. They had some true revelations in their own life and mind. So, but then again, the opponents would say, you know what? You're deluded. If you think that this was a spiritually enlightening experience, you're being tricked. So anyway, so that's all I'm gonna say about that. You say, Janet, wait a minute, Janet. Janet says, it's sad because now I have to go through and reprogram my identity with the divine creator. I'm gonna challenge you on that one, Janet. It's not sad. That is a divine gift. So watch it. Now, if you believe some of these people that I met on this trip who say, don't ever say something like, I don't want to be in this life, because then you're just inviting in an entity who'd be like, well, shoot, I've been trying to grab a human body for a long time. I'll take that from you. No, I'm being a little facetious. But Janet, the reality is, when you wake up to realize that who you've been programmed to be, not just this lifetime, but the cultural legacy that we take on through our genetic heritage, and then the programming we take on in the first 7 years of life when the brain is in this hypnagogic trance-like state where we just record the impressions around us, and our sense of self, which is formed when we are not in our right mind, we're not conscious, we're not aware, we're not the one choosing. To have the awareness now where you get to, as you say, go through and reprogram your identity with the divine creator, honey, that sounds like fabulousness. That's like, wait a minute, I'm awake, I have language. You didn't have language in the first couple years of life, right? When most of those imprints are happening. You have language, you have insight, you have awareness of things that have already happened in your life. This is a divine gift. It's like, wait a minute, this is like what I experienced. This is the only reason why I'm getting so amped up was because when I had that out-of-body, near-death-like experience, and I was done, y'all. I said, God, and now I made it clear that I was speaking to my divine creator. I said, God, I don't know what I'm doing. Take it. Take my life, my body, my business. Take it all. I don't know what I'm doing with it. I cannot go on living this way. And in that experience of going to the other side, having the full life review, seeing how every decision I made led me to that moment and why I was so depressed, when I came to be told, or I understood, that those choices that I made, I could have made different choices. I have the right. That's what free will is. But I felt coerced. I felt pressured. You know, as a kid, we give in to pressure, peer pressure, parental pressure. For good or for bad, in my ignorance and my blindness, I made those choices. But I didn't have full awareness. So when I recognized that we are these drops of God consciousness, this divine light, and we incarnate, and it's up to us to determine who we will be in this lifetime, I felt an immense sense of joy and freedom. I was like, I get to choose? All right, bet, I'm going back. And that's when I saw the vision. I saw this vision of me living in the south of France, walking hand in hand with a child along the boardwalk near the sea. I saw me healing with my hands. I saw me singing professionally. I saw this future and I said, yes. And I now know that when I come from the original source code, the original creator link, then I can create anything I want in this life, including my identity. Because if your identity is tied to the physical earth version of you, the ego with all of its programming, even the soul, then you are limited. And that would not be very fun, especially if you had some icky karma that you had to live out, right? But if I could transcend that, and I say, well, who am I? It's all about identity at the end of the day. It's all about the identity that you are embracing, that you are choosing. Who are you? And if you say, I am that I am whatever I say I am, which is what I heard on the other side. A little bit of Moses and a little bit of Eminem. Okay, God's got jokes. Then I recognize that who I say I am is who I am. I am that I am. I mean, that's the divine pronouncement. So it comes down to identity. If you identify with this earth vessel and you think that this is me, this physical thing that's in this encapsulated body, then yes, there's going to be limitations. But when you step out and you recognize who you really are, power. Candace says she wants to fly like Neo. And Lisa says, I'm so ready and willing to do all the work. And Janet says, I'm with you, Lisa, it's time. Well, get on a plane and fly over here. That'll be your start, Janet. Candace, I'm glad this has been enlightening. Janet says, not sad in the meaning of sad, but stating over realizing how this matrix had formed my identity. Yeah, it's sad in the standpoint that you recognize that there have been people who have been posing as friends, helpers, saviors, who didn't really have your best interest at heart. It is sad, but when you also recognize that it's just an illusion, it is a program, and you can go outside of it and beyond it, you can unplug, that's empowering. Hey, Melvin, you're right, it has been a long time. You were in a coma, and when you woke up, everything was shifting, like dimensional flips. You say you still believe I'm not in my original place. Ooh, wow. I've never heard this part of your story, Melvin. You got to tell us more. So what do you mean by your original place? Where are you supposed to be, Melvin? I want to know. Janet says you're excited about the change, gaining balance between the divine identity and the principles of life effectively with his commands. All right, I'm glad that this is helpful. This is no coincidence. You were just writing about identity work when my live event popped up. You know why I think that is, Lisa? You're right. None of this stuff is coincidence. I think that Spirit is saying, just like Mother Earth is calling for us to wake up, Spirit is saying, y'all need to wake up. And we're all saying so many of the same things. We have the same messages. Many of us are literally having the exact same experiences and the same messages, because Spirit is saying it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to reclaim our identity, our true identity, so that we can create magic and live a life we love. Priya, I don't know if you're still here, but the beautiful Priya Rana Kapoor and I did an interview yesterday. It was such a beautiful conversation that will be live on the radio at 9 o'clock for us here in France, 3 o'clock for you guys in the US. Go to americaoutloud.com and you'll hear this deep conversation that Priya and I had yesterday about this very concept, that realizing that we can give ourselves permission to take back our life and create a life of magic and love and miracles and joy. Whew. Can you imagine what would be possible to you? I want you to, and then don't get scared. Don't get so scared that you back off and don't do anything. So yes, Lisa, it is no coincidence that you're writing about identity work. A lot of us are talking about identity work. Because for me, it starts there. It's your whole belief on who you are, your knowledge of who you really are on that essence level is the foundation. Because if you still think that you're this soul, this ego encapsulated in physical form, and you're trying to run your controls over there, then you're subject to the rules of this delusion. So you got to choose your identity well. And I say, just as you were saying, Janet, in alignment with the Father. And if you call the Father God or Mother Goddess, Source, let's just be clear, we're talking about the divine essence, that spirit of light and truth. That's what we're talking about. Aligning with your true self. Yes, Candace, this is deep. That's what will happen to you when you go off to Peru with a bunch of spiritual folks. Oh, I think I just got bit by a mosquito. Y'all, I'm about to go inside. Hello, Daria. How are you? So, thank you, Priya. I love talking with you as well. And I know we're going to do many conversations, or at least we should, if you're willing. So if you're struggling with this idea of taking back control and really giving yourself permission to put yourself first, to find out who you are and what you value, then yes, get Priya's book. Give yourself permission to live your life. It will shift your stuff. And I didn't tell you this, Priya, yesterday when we were doing the interview. It just made so much sense that part of what I teach, in my workshops and retreats. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely going inside. Mosquitoes. Mosquitoes want my blood, y'all. I have a curriculum that I teach from. It starts off with the cornerstones, something I call the cornerstones. And ultimately, we need to have awareness of who we really are. We need to accept who we are and recognize, with forgiveness and compassion, that all the drama and trauma we've endured was not our fault. We get past all of the blame and victimization and shame. And, so it's awareness and it's acceptance. And then it's accountability. This idea of responsibility, many people don't like. The word I use, I know Priya and I in our conversation yesterday, we talked about responsibility, which I actually like. Because responsibility, see if I can lower this, is you acknowledging you have the ability to respond. But in the cornerstones, I talk about it as accountability. Because I work with clients who have endured really shitty childhoods, really terrible stuff. But even as we recognize that some things happened in our lives where there was mistreatment and abuse, there comes a moment where you can say, okay, now I know why I made certain choices and how I got affected. And that's fine. Acknowledgement of that is fine. We got to get to a point where there's, no blame. You recognize even the perpetrators were messed up in the head too. They weren't aligned with their God source self. So in their ignorance and confusion and anger and pain, they did some things that were probably, ungodly, right? But once you get past that acknowledgement and accepting that that's what happened and that's in the past, then you realize that you are the now accountable person. You may at age 1 or 2 when something terrible happened, or even at age 7, you may not have had all of the ability to take control, but now you do. And so step 3 out of this cornerstone matrix is accountability. And then number 4 is then taking action. It's like based on what you now know, how are you going to create an action plan to live the life that you want as the divine creator, not as the victim? And then the 5th and final one, anyone who knows my 5 steps, it always ends with appreciation and gratitude. And we have to just be grateful that we're having these awakening processes to wake up to who we really are. That's a gift. Awareness of your true self is a gift. especially when you look at people who are still in victim mode, you can see with such compassion that people who believe that they're being controlled and they can't break free, it's sad. So yes, aligning with your true self, that is good. That is my whole mission, Janet. That is my story. I want people to align with the authentic self, your true self, your God self, whatever you want to call it. So, I think I better, oh my gosh, it's been an hour once again, hasn't it? I'm gonna say goodbye to y'all. So thank you for tuning in for a cup of verbal tea with me. If you have any questions, feel free. Candace said, wow, mind blown. Yeah, Candace, I don't know if you've been around here. I don't recognize your little picture. It's so tiny on my iPhone. But it's good to have you here. Yeah, sometimes we have some mind-blowing conversations. Yeah, it's time for us to blow the mind wide open and bring you back to your divine mind, where nothing is impossible. So Priya, yes, you'd love to work with me again. Yay! And yes, this is my home. I moved here in March, and I absolutely love it. There are many things I love about it. Not loving the bugs. We're only 20 minutes from Cannes, on the French Riviera. But it's amazing that just a few minutes back and you feel like you're in the country. Okay, so I really am in the countryside, for real, for real. Just beautiful greenery all around, a beautiful garden. The garden is a lot more work than I really bargained for. And the bugs. Like, the bugs are like, hey, this is a new house. This was our land. Don't be telling us we gotta go. But the bugs. But yeah, I don't know how long I'll live here. I am looking for a house to buy or refurbish, also on the Riviera, with a view of the sea. I want a view of the Mediterranean Sea, with my beautiful infinity pool, because yeah, this is the place that I love. So it's been interesting having Sienna in America right now. She's on vacation, so I have been just back to back with calls and stuff, and so I don't know what I'm missing right now. I know I have something at 6 o'clock. So tonight, I'm doing a juicy interview. Some of you may have seen an interview I did with Thavi Ward. She's one of the co-founders of Authentic Tantra, and she and her partner Martha Snyder. Martha is in Norway. They have created Authentic Tantra, and it's a Tibetan tantric practice for healing. Not the crazy tantra that's all about sex parties. It's legitimate tantra. So we are doing a second interview tonight for my new radio show. So if you didn't know, the weekend edition of my show, Liberate Your Authentic Self, the weekend edition is a little more saucy and provocative. And in our last interview that, people loved, she was talking about, see, and he followed me inside, y'all. You see these mosquitoes? They are tenacious. And of course, as a Buddhist, I don't kill them, so I have to catch it and then put it outside. Because everything has a spirit, everyone has a life, including the mosquito. He just wants to live, he just wants my beautiful blood. Do you know that there are Buddhist monks who just let him? They just okay, go ahead, suck the blood, feed on me, have your life. I'm not there yet. I don't like mosquito bites. I hate being itchy. I'm gonna catch him and put him outside. I got my little rag here. Anyway, sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm easily distracted when it comes to bugs. Yes. Yeah, you have to get here earlier and more often. Yes, Candace, I meet... Lisa, you're saying no herbal tea, white wine? Isn't it a little early for white wine? I don't drink any of that, but today I'm drinking this bio-organic aloe vera with pomegranate, which Sienna left here. I bought it for her, and she usually likes them, but she didn't drink it, so I can't let it go to waste. So Candace, normally I have these Monday and Wednesday. Monday at, where did you say you are? You're in Washington and then you're moving to the Carolinas. Yeah, it's a little early for you then, right? So what time is it for you? So 6 in the morning? Or it's 4:30 now. So normally I do it at 3 o'clock my time, which is 9 a.m. on the East Coast. So when you move to the Carolinas, Mondays at 9 in the morning, Mondays and Wednesdays. Wednesdays, my free-for-all cup of verbal tea where I just get to rant about whatever's on my mind and heart. And I think Friday is gone, guys. For those of you long-timers, you know I used to do one on Monday and Friday. I'm just so busy now. With all these clients that we're bringing to the world, books we're publishing, the documentary film that's kicking off, and the radio show. Thank you, Janet, for hooking me up with the time zone, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm just finding I'm a little overbooked. But tune in again, Candace, and there's lots of great videos for you to watch from the past. And if you have questions or topics you want explored, I'm happy to do that. Anything that's about helping us live a better life, a more authentic life, aligned with our divine essence, the spirit, then let's do it. And because of my background in health and psychology, a lot of it is going to be around, you know, wellness and well-being. And because of my background in sex ed, yes, we talk about sex and conscious relationships as well. So please be in touch if you need anything. And if you visit AndreaPennington.com, you can just click to download the free audiobook called Liberate and Love Your Authentic Self. And you can listen to me on the go. And then that'll put you in our email database so that you'll get updates from me anytime I'm doing a workshop or leading a course, or, you know, I give all sorts of little inspiration. And the lovely Sarah Kate adds in these beautiful images. So we just send out inspiration and love and healing chi and spiritual goodness in as many formats as we can, and just to keep this community uplifted. So I wish you all a fabulous, fabulous rest of the week. Melvin says you're buying a house. I'm looking at your fridge. Yeah. You know what? I will say, the one thing I will say about the woman, her name is Alexandra, who is the one who called just a little while ago on this Facebook Live. She really created some amazing touches when she designed and built the house. And yes, the fridge and the pantry combo with he's got these little, I'll have to show you a separate video, Melvin, I'll show you. It's really nice. It's nice having the full hookup, and then everything goes back and it looks nice and clean and no clutter, which I am grateful for. Anyway, so my friends, lots of love to you all. Have a fabulous rest of the week. Sorry, I'm trying to look at any last comments. I am just sending you tons of love. Thank you, Faida. So remember, my friends, you are a gift to the world. So share your true, authentic self and your presence with passion. So until we meet again, may you be free from suffering. May you be truly well in body, mind, and heart. And may you be truly happy. Much love. Bye.